Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The Federal Laboratory Consortium has introduced a professional designation designed to strengthen how federal labs move research into real-world use by building recognized, transferable expertise. The goal is to create a clearer marker of credibility for agency leaders, industry partners, and the workforce itself. My guest is Andy Myers, Technology Transfer Lead at the Kansas City National Security Campus. Mr. Myers, it's so great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here.
We often talk about tech transfer as a business process, things that move from one stage of development to another. Tech transfer really requires people behind the scenes to do that. The Federal Laboratory Consortium has just created a new professional credential for these folks. Tell us about the problem you were trying to solve when you decided that a formal professional designation was needed.
Well, to start with, the idea about tech transfer, the U.S. government has made really significant investments in the research and technology that advances not only science in general, but areas for our country to be leaders in. From the Manhattan Project till today, the government has invested billions into research at universities, national labs, small businesses, etc. The government gives us the right to own intellectual property for anything that we develop under those research projects, but also prevents us, any federal entity, that from being a commercial competitor with U.S. industry. The goal is really to help U.S. industry grow. And so we need to take those inventions, those patents, that intellectual property, and move it into the public sphere. And that doesn't happen automatically. People don't just go to a website and say, what technology should I look at today? There are a huge cadre of professionals looking at market analysis, at industry trends, evaluating the intellectual property that has taken place at the federal lab level, and trying to make connections with also, individuals at companies that might value those inventions. And so there are lots of parts to that puzzle, lots of different people involved, and lots of knowledge that all of those individuals need to get. As you would expect, the federal sphere is not like any other. And so people need to understand what the rules and laws and directives are, agency to agency, and be able to communicate those amongst their peers as well as to industry in general that we're trying to work with.
You've just described a really complex environment, sort of the intersection of science and law and acquisition and partnerships. So from your experience, what finally pushed this work from being seen as a role people maybe grow into from job to job toward a profession with defined standards?
I think it's a couple of things. One is kind of critical mass. We've been doing this since the 80s when federal legislation appeared that gave universities and then federal labs the right to own intellectual property and to be the stewards of those resources. And over a couple of decades, we have found best practices. We have found lots of missteps that we need to correct. And all of that together leads to a code of conduct, a list of rules, understanding of how we should operate within this framework.
I'm speaking with Andy Myers. He's the Technology Transfer Lead at the Kansas City National Security Campus, operated by Honeywell. Andy, who benefits the most from this kind of professional signal? Is it the labs themselves? Is it the industry partners? Is it the workforce? How do you see this credential changing the nature of the conversations between all the players?
I think it begins with the employees that are working in federal tech transfer offices. Some of those are contractors, like in the Department of Energy, and some NIH labs. Others are federal employees. And tech transfer is not necessarily an area where people go to study at a university. And so we learn the techniques and we learn the language and we learn the laws on the job. And so having a professional designation helps us with our training, helps us identify gaps in understanding, and creates, a more well-rounded tech transfer professional. That then goes on to benefit all the parts that participate after that, working with other federal agencies, working with industry, being able to explain why rules are the way they are, and really kind of emphasizing the benefit to working with us and licensing intellectual property from the federal government.
There are other career fields that have credentials. I'm thinking acquisition professionals, financial management professionals. When you think about adding this into the tech transfer workforce, what might you expect to be the long-term implications for the workforce at large? Will this entice more people into the specialty? Will it help them stay longer? What are you hoping to accomplish with the credential?
I think a little bit of all of those. When you look at similar credentials in our industry that focus on licensing or tech transfer in an academic environment, those are all designed to raise the level of professionalism and, again, helping everybody look forward together. And so this happens in a federal perspective, and our view is just enough different that we didn't think that we could rely purely on other designations. And so we're hoping that as we, again, get some critical mass in people that have the pro designation, we elevate federal tech transfer, elevate the individuals carrying it out. Hopefully that helps them with their professional progression as individuals, and just raises, I guess, both awareness and activity in the field.
One of the challenges of having a program like this is not only setting the standards, but managing the testing and the credentialing, keeping the standards up to date, ensuring that everyone agrees that these are the right standards. How is the Federal Laboratory Consortium going to manage the program?
So the program wasn't launched without an executive committee that will evaluate applications, or without the list of requirements that are necessary to get this. The FLC has had a longstanding history of training, of engagement, of meetings that bring professionals together. And we've been able to use that network and those resources to build the base for both the requirements and the evaluation of those. So we have a list of experienced professionals that we identified early and reached out to and have joined us in evaluating new applicants. Our plan is to do this on a quarterly basis. The applications are not burdensome, but you have to have been in the federal tech transfer world. So working at a federal tech transfer position, having attended an FLC meeting, participated in training. And so all of those are, we were clear about trying to make those easy to accomplish, but purposeful.
The application window for the first cohort is open now. What do folks need to know, and where do they need to go if they're interested in applying?
The easiest place to find information is at the FLC website. That's federallabs.org. Our national meeting is coming up May 13th and 14th. And if, attending a national meeting is one of the requirements. And so if you can join us in Seattle, we'd love to see you. The website will give information about the program. It will have information on the requirements, and it will have resources, email addresses of where to send that information and where to send questions.
And then let's just talk long term. What is the vision for this program 5-10 years from now?
Just as the profession grows and evolves, we hope that the pro designation will as well. There are things today that weren't anticipated when some of the federal legislation came on the scene in the 80s. I suspect we will continue to see that. And so as we get the first cohorts going and start to use this as a designation, I think we'll see ways that we can refine the program. Maybe there will be subsets that lead into specific areas such as marketing or contracts or some of the legal areas around IP ownership. I think we're, open to seeing how it grows and best benefits our members.
I've been speaking with Andy Myers. He's the technology transfer lead at the Kansas City National Security Campus, operated by Honeywell. Mr. Myers, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.